Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're interviewing Eric McCoy and Justus Meyer, the developers of Doomlings card game with the goal of scoring the most points before the end of the world. This game started as a side hobby, but it's already a runaway success on Kickstarter. Eric, Justus, welcome to the Binge. How you doing?
Doing pretty well.
That was delayed. What do you mean, how, pretty well?
Because we don't have words.
Pause. Well, I guess we're doing okay. We're smashing our goals.
That's the thing.
Another Tuesday.
We didn't prepare for. I think Justus and I the night before. I think I even reached out to one of the Kickstarter groups, and I was like, guys, like, what am I forgetting here? What do we do? What do we prepare for? And Justus and I are talking, and we're like, okay, so we might get funded in the first week. We might not get funded in the first week. That's okay too. People might love the game. They might not so much love the game. And they might just be like, meh. We didn't expect for what happened on Tuesday at all.
So let me just explain this to people, for people that maybe are not aware, right? So you had a goal. I'm going to put this in Canadian dollars because it always sounds bigger. All right. So you hit, you had a goal of like 12,600, which I'm assuming is 10,000 US. You hit $75,000 in 2 days. I mean, not just like beat your goal or like you destroyed your goal in like the first day. Yeah. Right. So that especially for people coming in with their very first campaign, new to the industry, I mean, you guys got to be on cloud nine. Like that is incredible.
Yeah.
We're getting more than 4 hours of sleep a night. Sorry, go ahead, Justus.
No, I think the first thing is just the release that we've done our homework. We made sure that what we were promising and what we wanted to deliver and what our goal was we could do. Like we were not gonna we just don't overpromise. But it's a relief to know that we've got the funds to really make this killer, and I'm just really freaking excited for people to open this game now, knowing that we got the support behind it.
Well, sorry, we're going to get into the game in a second because I got some questions around what you're going to do with those extra funds as well. But let's start off with kind of the history. So how did you guys meet? Like, how did you guys come together? Like, what's your backgrounds?
So Justus and I actually went to university together. We went to Columbia College for film school. And when we both moved out to Los Angeles separately of each other. Yeah. And we decided independently to quit our jobs together, if that makes any sense. And we started to make commercials for a living. That's kind of the only way that filmmakers can pay rent, basically, is if you put your tools to evil.
Now, were you guys just filming? Were you writing as part of that as well? Or was it like, what did that entail?
Well, we should put a little color into it because we started actually where Eric had actually discovered some ways to compete in commercial contests. So at the time, we're young and no one's giving us any opportunities, but there were these commercial contests online where if you could put together your friends and shoot something, you might win a prize of, $5,000. And
which was a lot of money.
And not everyone knows how much it costs to make a commercial. But to give you an idea, the industry standard is a minimum, like a low budget is like $100,000. And that's low budget, So we were excited about that. But what it ended up doing was it gave us the opportunity to work with some bigger name brands. We worked with Lego and Listerine and Mattel, and we'd pick off these wins. So we got to build this portfolio of clout, which eventually, just gave us a background so that we could get representation and start working professionally as commercial directors. So.
Yeah, for anybody that nerds out on this stuff like I do, you should go and check out these guys' reel. Like, the commercials are awesome that you guys have done, and there's some in there that are just absolutely hilarious. So it's cool. You can see the creative angle, and you can see kind of how that progresses to where you are with this game, right? There's obviously this kind of creative thread through the both of you that's carried on through into this to this game. So you were doing these commercials, and then how did that leap happen from making commercials to I want to make board games or card games?
So I don't know that it was like I want to make, board games or card games. So Eric and I, we've been working together for going on 9 years. Eric, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I think so. Wow.
yeah.
It's a long time.
And yeah, so and we're at a solid place in our career, where we can comfortably say we're commercial directors, right?
We're real filmmakers.
But when the pandemic hit, it really did hit our industry very hard. We are live action comedy directors, so what that means is our sets can be anywhere from 100 to 150 people. So suddenly the entire industry had to rethink advertising. Now it's coming back around. They've figured it out. We're on our way out of the pandemic, but that was a really tough year. We went from the prior year doing 30 commercials to not doing a single one until something like November. And even to date, we've done like 4. Yeah.
That's got to be a combination of pandemic where you can't have people in close contact, right? So you have all these restrictions of people just physically being in locations together, right? And then the flip side is you got businesses that are probably saying, whoa, we got to scale back our, one of the first things usually cut. And people argue whether it's the right decision or not, but in business, often marketing dollars are the first thing that are cut when you got, either there's a recession or you have to tighten the bootstrings, so to speak. So, you got a double whammy there where people can't even physically be in the same spot to do things like film a commercial. And then the other side where you've got the client side, they're saying, whoa, we're going to do a commercial, but maybe we hold off doing it this year. And, we allocate those funds towards just keeping our people employed maybe for this kind of year. Right. So those two things are kind of a double hit. It's got to really sting, for people that are make a living out of making commercials.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think, for Eric and me, we kind of recognize that pretty quickly. And Eric, I'll let you speak a little to this, but we didn't want to stop working. We're both very creative. So, I think it was a good opportunity to start working on script development and writing, but I know we're here to talk about a card game.
Yep.
I think Justus and I we don't sit idle very well. We don't even we started this year like, all right, we're going to check in every day with each other at 8:30 in the morning. And then we just got excited about the game and it became 7:30, 6:30. And now without an alarm, Justus and I are on the phone talking at 5 in the morning.
Wow.
Day. And I don't feel it. It just, my body needs 6 hours and that's what it gets. And then we're rocking and rolling. So,
yeah.
So this game took how long? So from kind of because the game was developed, I guess, on the side, right? So Justus, I understand you did this with your brother or something. What kind of happened?
Yeah. There? So over Christmas, this is pre-pandemic. Eric and I had come off of actually a pretty good year. And over Christmas, my brother and I, we were playing card games with our family, with our cousins. And, Andrew, my brother, is always bringing these weird, unique games that most people haven't heard of, right? But and then I'm always excited about those, but our family doesn't pick up on those quite as well, right? They want to be playing games a little more like Exploding Kittens or Guillotine and Sushi Go. Yeah. Love those games. It's great, but I can only play so many of those. Yeah. So Andrew and I really wanted to develop something that had just as much accessibility, just as much, I could pull you in just as much in like something my wife would play with me, but would keep me coming back, would keep my brother and I coming back. Something we can knock out in 20, 30 minutes and feel like, man, I want to sink my teeth into another round or two of those.
Yeah.
So just for fun, we sat down and we were just scribbling in a notebook. And, Eric and I are the story guys. So this is where, we always come from. My brother's the rules lawyer. And I said, well, why don't we pick the theme first? So I've been going through some nights of existential dread. Why don't we make it about the end of the world? And Andrew said, okay, I like that. I said, or what if it's a super happy, fun time fish aquarium? And Andrew said, not as good. We're going to go with the end of the world. So, so we developed it over Christmas. And it was just this little passion project, back in, he's in Iowa, I'm in California, just a back and forth, just this idea. And then, come February, you start hearing about the pandemic, and come March, that's when it hits. Eric and I aren't getting any work. And it's really like it's more like I just had nothing else to keep me occupied. If that makes sense.
It's ironic because this game about the end of the world was what kept us from worrying about the end of the world.
Yeah.
There were some months over the summer there where we live in Los Angeles, and there was a weekend when there were nonstop police sirens because they couldn't put the police cars out because they were burning. And it just was not in control. There were instances where, especially when the first people we knew were getting COVID, where we were just like, what do we do now? When do I see my friends again? And we just kept coming back to this game that was like, well, we got to work on this now. We got to work on the, what's the deal with these traits? What's going on with this rule?
Yeah.
And it just kept us working. It kept us processing and really building. And I think it kind of speaks to the human condition that if you have something to be creative with and be creative about, you can get through anything.
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah, it's one of those things is like when you see people that are, grieving, for instance, going to clean mode, and they have to clean everything, right? And they'll clean their whole house and renovate, things like that. And I kind of equate to that, right? Is when you have a situation where you don't have the ability to go out and see everyone you're used to seeing, you got to do something, right? You can't just sit in front of a TV and watch 24/7 news about how bad things are, right?
Yeah.
You got to create. Creators got to create, right? So it's cool that you guys took your creativity and funneled it into something like this. It's obviously turned out to be something pretty special. So let's actually talk about the game. Can you walk us through how to play this game? I've got the general idea of how to play it, but I kind of want to hear from you guys. I'm going to share my screen for people who are actually watching live or watch the YouTube afterwards, but walk us through, how do you play this game?
Yeah. So before I get mechanics, I do want to point out the whole thing about this is, yes, it's the end of the world, but that's not our focus. So one of our main developers, Chris Vela, who actually has been on with us since the very beginning, he has always pushed and reminded us, yes, it's about the end of the world, but this needs to be fun. It needs to feel happy.
It's very
That's
colorful.
the focus. So yes. And, our whole perspective on it is, when you're playing the game, we don't actually want you worrying about the end of the world. So the end of the world will come. The game will come to an end. In our game, it's set up where we have these. I'll talk about that in a second. But there is an actual end of the game. The player doesn't end that. The world does come to an end. But the way it's designed for gameplay, you're not thinking about the end of the world. You're actually thinking about your turn. Just, what are the other players doing? What are you doing right now in this moment of time? So the way it works is, we have 3 types of cards. We have these ages, just above there. Yep. So these are like rounds, and this is what guides the game. So at the beginning of each round, we flip an age card. It'll have a little effect, rule, sometimes these bonuses that everyone follows. And then everybody goes around taking a turn. The way you take a turn is you play trait cards. This is our second type of cards. So if you scroll back up, we can see these cute little critters. These are our Doomlings. And all Doomlings are worth points. They come in one of 4 colors or colorless. So we have red, green, blue, and purple are colorless. And each one, so they're worth points. And then they have these effects, bonuses, player interaction. This is actually how you steal from other opponents, swap or draw more cards or score additional points. So we go around and everybody gets to play 1 trait. And then it's actually that simple. And we flip another age. It's a new round, and then we play another trait.
And the object of the game is to score. Sorry to cut you off. The object of the game is to score the most points by the end of the world.
So the
You'd think
underworld
I'd be
is
better
kind
at-
of like random though, right? Like not random, but it will trigger at some point. You're not quite certain. So you got to still kind of be strategically planning your points out where you might be going for a certain number of points. But I mean, if you wait too long, maybe for a certain thing, you might wait too long, I guess, because the end could trigger, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So within the ages, which are our rounds, we bury 3 catastrophes. In a game in a deck of Doomlings, you actually you get a bunch more than 3 catastrophes, but each setup only uses 3. You never know what they are. And we have a special kind of layout. It's actually, for anyone who's played Pandemic, we use something very familiar to Pandemic setup, but it ensures that the catastrophes will never come all at once. And all players will play a minimum of 9 rounds and a maximum of 13 rounds. So for people who have played multiple times, they start to get familiar with that and they realize, we just finished this kind of like set of cards.
Yeah.
That catastrophe, I got a 1 in 4 chance now. So I better be playing the cards I want to play.
Reminds me of this is one of the things I thought of when I was kind of reading up on the game was that mechanic, was the kind of the Pandemic mechanic. One of my favorite games is Pandemic Contagion. So the one that's not co-op. The one where you're trying to affect the world and be the most viral virus out there, right? So remind me, it had some flavors of that, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, what we've done our best to is kind of pay homage to some of our favorite sort of more familiar mechanics, so that again, this isn't an intimidating game. But, more hardcore seasoned gamers are going to recognize some familiar concepts, but done in a kind of a clever twist. And then newer players aren't going to be turned off by like all this language they have to learn. It's very distilled down and accessible. And then finally, the final card that we have, this is a special mechanic. I haven't actually seen this before, but I always hesitate to call any. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So, the whole sell of our game for me is that it's a card game. We have no components. But in Doomlings, your hand is actually called your gene pool. So the size of your hand can increase or decrease as the game goes on. Catastrophes often decrease your gene pool, the size of your hand. Traits can build them back up. Some will have bonuses to your gene pool size. So to keep track of it, we have this clever little counter card. It just flips and rotates. It's a counter card with 1, 2, 3, 4 on one side and 5, 6, 7, 8 on the other side. So as the game progresses, each player's gene pool independently can increase or decrease, giving you more or fewer options. And thematically, it's kind of like your Doomling species. As we're getting closer to the end of the world, your gene pool is shrinking and you have fewer options of world dominance. So
how'd you come up with that? Because when I saw that mechanic, I was like, that's clever, right? Because there's no more trying to, is this round supposed to be 4 cards I can have or 5 cards? Like, it's right in front of you. You got the marker right there. Did it just kind of pop into your head one day, or when did this come in? Was it always there from the beginning, or is it something you kind of developed along the way?
So that was definitely, the mechanic itself was in Germany when I was working on it with my brother, Andrew. Andrew is our rules lawyer. That guy, he's got a special gift for coming up with these things. But I will say that's one of those things where Andrew and I were collaborating so closely. Like, I don't really remember at this point what the process was, but I remember the fun of just throwing words out there and themes and concepts and what we wanted the players to be experiencing. We didn't want them to just draw a card and move on. We wanted to give these other and so I feel like we do need to explain it. So the way it works is you don't start a turn by drawing a card. You start a turn with however many cards in your hand there are. And then when you play a trait from your hand, you end your turn by stabilizing. So you look at your gene pool. If your gene pool is 5, but you're holding 4 cards, you have to stabilize to 5. So you're drawing a card. If you're holding 6 cards at the end of your turn and your gene pool is 5, you have to discard. And I think, Andrew and I we wanted to find a new way in a pretty simple game for the card cycle, the deck cycling experience.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. And so when you guys were developing this, was there a lot of like it was a tabletop simulator, or what? How did you guys test it when you're all in these different remote locations? Your brother is, in another state, and so how did you guys do that?
So we had to, first share this is like spreadsheet. Everyone does a Google spreadsheet. So we could actually look at these things, because there's something we should point out. Every single card in this game is different. We have no copies. There's in the base game, we will have more than 150. It's tough because stretch goals we'll be able to do a few more. But there's definitely more than 150 in the base game. But the gold game is 240 or more. So
and these are unique cards. There are no duplicates. There are no fillers. Every single one of them, Justus has designed by hand, personally.
I feel bad for the copy reviewer on that one. My God.
It's us. It's us.
You are looking.
Don't want to get copy blind, guys.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, that's a lot of cards. That's cool though. I think there's the value there too, right? So when people are thinking, it's just a card game. Well, it's not just a card game. It is a whole lot of cards, right? And it's a lot of unique art pieces, and just how thematically this all comes together. I love that it's the end of the world, but it's very colorful, right? So you got this game about the end of the world, but there's optimism almost kind of embedded into it too, which is kind of funny.
And one of our banner cards is we have these cards called dominant traits. They're special because they're more powerful. They're rare. They're only a couple in the game, and players can only play 2 in any game. But our banner trait is called optimistic nihilism. So it's just this happy doomling kind of embracing the end of the world. And the idea is like, look, if nothing matters, maybe that's not such a bad thing either. Maybe we can take the pressure off for a moment and just accept it. And
you can't get rid of those cards, I think, too, right? Like those ones are, did I read somewhere they're stuck to you once you?
Correct.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah. So the idea is just, they're stronger. We want to incentivize you to play them. Once you select them, you can kind of anchor your strategy around them too, if you want. So players can't mess with them. You can't steal them.
And on that note, different colors of traits have different characteristics. So, for instance, red traits are much more aggressive, and they are much more higher risk, higher reward, whereas purple traits are a lot more mischievous, and you can get like little flavors of take that, not aggressively, but there's a lot of that kind of fun as well. There's a couple cards that allow you to play traits into opponents' trait piles. So if you've got a negative trait in your hand, you can play it into their pile and reduce their score. There are some where if you've got a poor hand, it will actually allow you to swap hands with people.
Well, thank God.
Purple's like my personal favorite. I love mischief. That's just kind of me. And then, but I think what's kind of fun about that is there's like a little bit more beyond your kind of first surface level play for it. We kind of took this kind of like almost like a Pixar approach, where there's something for kind of your first timer, your kids, your sort of entry level gamers, and then there's something for like the grown-ups who play games every other day.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys hit a fairly big target out of the gate. So marketing has obviously been a big component of your success, I would say, going into this campaign. I know on your page you talk a lot about them, but I'd love if we could just to jump into some of the partners you've kind of outlined on your page. So, off the top, I know that you've got Nook, I think, is your does like kind of pre-marketing for you. Gel Up, which is a social media amplification company. We've talked to others on the Binge in the past. Backer Kit's another one, for example. They will help manage the Facebook ads, the Google ads, and so forth to help amplify it, right? Because you have a whole team doing that, which allows you to focus your time on doing things like podcasts and so forth. Ad Magic, I guess, is where you guys are having these printed.
Correct.
In the USA, yeah?
Yes. Yep.
Shipmonk. What's Shipmonk? This is the first I've seen Shipmonk. Maybe I'm just new, but
Shipmonk's a fulfillment center. They are they're actually like a perfect size for us. I mean, the way they put it is they're not like a 4 million square foot warehouse, but like I just got to tour personally in San Bernardino, they're 90,000 square foot. And I was like, oh, this isn't big. Okay. What do I know? I guess
you got to see the photo of this guy. He's just like, it's so huge.
No, they're great because they can offer us competitive competitive prices, but they also are not so big that they're holding our hand through this. Like they're answering
cool.
our calls every day. Like they really care about this project and they're cheering us on as well. But to the marketing, I was hoping, Eric, if you want to give a shout out to our social team and talk a little about that.
I mean, the ground floor, even before Nuke and Jellup, like we brought on 3 amazing social media managers.
Nice.
It's really incredible. But like, so Christine Petrovich, James Freeman, and then Patrick Jones. Did I get that right, Jones?
You got it.
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. I'm sorry,
You're on the
Patrick
spot,
Jones.
man.
I know. But so, we made the conscious choice not to hire social media managers who happen to do games, but to hire gamers and tabletop gamers who can do social media.
Got it.
And so they've been instrumental in helping us avoid landmines and also guiding us into the right places for doing podcasts, right? Doing, live streams, things like that. We do a fun little live stream every Sunday where we play other people's games on Board Game Arena. And maybe that's marketing. Maybe that's just us having a good time. Like it's kind of a blurred line,
Yeah.
But that is kind of our core, right? That's how I wake up every morning. I go on Slack and see whatever meme Jim has posted, I mean, it's kind of a beautiful little core there. And so that was kind of the basis of it.
And it's important to highlight, like we talk to him every day, and this whole game, we get feedback. We listen to everybody, all our play testers, all our reviewers, and we try to just throw it in a pot and take the best of what we're able to, but our social media team, they help us navigate that. Cause we'll start to do something like, guys, this is not as cool as you think it is, or, hey, this you're on the right track here. And I think as a gamer myself, and that's how they'll talk to us sometimes, is like, this is something I would enjoy. And that means a lot more than trying to guess.
So you created an advisory board basically, right? So you got your social media managers, but they're your advisory board at the same time.
And some of them have backed over 100 Kickstarters. So they've seen the arena, they understand the landscape. And, again, they've helped us avoid a lot of pitfalls. There's also another advisor who we should absolutely give a shout out to. His name's Gregory Frank. And Greg, we met him through a mutual friend who connected us. And Greg has overseen or consulted on more than 125 successful Kickstarters in his career.
Wow.
And he prepared us. I mean, I still don't know why this guy is taking our calls. But, he has really shown us kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. And so, I think knowing what to expect, hey guys, you are going to be completely overwhelmed day one. Just make sure every day you take an hour to just, turn your phones off and just breathe, right? Getting that advice, you're like, that's really helpful long-term, right? Don't forget to eat. Little things like that have nothing to do with gaming, but because they've been there, they can tell like, hey, you're about to enter some deep waters here. Let's just be ready for them.
So is this going to be one game or is there more coming? Like, is there plans? Obviously this has been successful. Who knows where you're going to land, but it's going to be significantly higher than where you are right now. What's your plans going forward? Are you guys going to form a gaming company or kind of where do you go?
So like everything on this project, we're taking it one step at a time. We're focusing on the here and now. When we started out, we were really just thinking, let's get a game on our shelves. And then we were like, well, we need some artwork. Let's get some artwork for the game. And now we're like, then we were like, well, let's get a Kickstarter. And now we're looking at it and we're saying, let's just make sure we have a solid game for our backers. Like, we want everybody to feel like they're opening something special. Eric, what were you going to say?
I want to clarify. When he says let's get a game on our shelves, he literally means let's design a game for Justus's shelf, Andrew's shelf, and maybe Eric's shelf if we can afford an extra prototype. This was not like a game on like a few people's shelves. It was a thing some of us could play and we'd not really tell anybody else. That's what this could have been, were it not for like Greg and a couple of the other folks were mentioning, like
Chris and So for us, we definitely have our eye on, we're looking in how to move into e-commerce, how to work with brick and mortar retail stores. But our focus is Doomlings. We've kicked around some ideas for how we could do lightning round Doomlings. We've heard from some reviewers how they think it'd be cool if there was a way to play multiple cards at a time as well. It transforms the game. So there might be a spin-off of that. There's a board game sequel I think would be amazing. Where I don't want to give away the goods here, but we have some ideas for that. We're not looking to just blow up into now a card game or board game company. We want to make this product amazing, and we want it someday to be on now a retail shelf somewhere where just some stranger can walk in, see some pretty colors for the end of the world and say, yeah, I bet I'd have a good time playing that. And I think that's where we'd like to get to after this Kickstarter.
Well, certainly
I will say also there are also expansion packs that are built into some of the tiers that are available on the Kickstarter. There's a Dinolings, which is like a prehistoric Doomlings. There's a Mythlings, which is much more of your kind of fantasy Doomlings. There's a Techlings, which is more of your like bionic kind of fusion Doomlings. And then we also do have like dual colored and advanced mechanics, which allow you to do like hidden player objectives. So cool. These are all kind of your smaller booster packs. So we have already begun to branch out within this world, but right now we are still focusing on the Doomlings universe.
Well, I can say I have zero doubt that this will be on a retail shelf somewhere in the not short term future. So, guys, you've done amazing. Congrats so far. How best do people follow along? So if they want to follow this journey or be kind of part of the Doomlings world, is there a social media account they can follow, or how best do they do that?
Honestly, the most fun social media account, I'm supposed to plug our Facebook page. Join the Doomlings community group. People are posting, like right now, there was this, we did this thing where we're like, post photos of your pets with like the hashtag My Little Doomling. It's nice. Kind of a take on like My Little Pony. We are constantly laughing at the new memes. Someone made us cookies and they were like Doomlings cookies. So you can see photos of that in the community. I mean, it some of it has to do with Doomlings because the campaign's happening right now, but like in the months leading up to it, it had nothing to do with Doomlings. And I'm sure that when the campaign's over, it will go back to like funny board game memes. So
how do they do that? How do they join this community? Is it on like a Instagram page?
It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. It's called the Doomlings community.
Got it.
And we just hit like 1,500 members.
Oh, wow.
It's getting a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, I think that's the most fun. I mean, obviously we have our Kickstarter campaign, which we're, day 3 of. Yeah. We've already, Justus, remind me now, how many we've hit a lot of stretch goals, or not a lot of, we've hit a lot of unlocked tokens and trophies. We've got this like trophy road where if anyone's like familiar with like Pokemon.
I mean, we could definitely talk about the details for hours, but how do they follow us, Eric? How do they follow us?
We are on Instagram if you prefer Instagram. And actually what's cool about Instagram, I will say this, we're doing this thing called the Captain's Log. So every day throughout the campaign, we have an audio dispatch from the planet Endaris where there is a captain who's just landed on the Doomlings planet. And so she's sending these dispatches back to our Instagram. It's also at every Friday being posted on Board Game Geek in a forum.
Oh,
so there's a great Captain's Log that's happening. And if you miss the first 3 episodes of the Captain's Log, they're in a highlight that you can just click through and listen to on the Instagram. And that is Doomlings Game.
Perfect.
On Instagram.
Now, if anybody actually wants to back the campaign, I'm going to put the link to the Kickstarter campaign in the show notes. So whether you're listening on the audio podcast or if you're watching this on the YouTube playback or even on our Facebook group page, it'll be on all of those. Gentlemen, all the best to you guys. You guys are doing amazing. I can't wait to see where this lands. And I hope you stay in the industry because I mean you've created something really special here. So I hope there's another creation that comes after the dust is settled on this one.
That would be
Thanks
awesome.
a lot, James.
It's so cool to be here. I mean, just even being interviewed. Thank you. This is really
no
cool.
worries. You guys take care. Cheers.
You too.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply join the Facebook group Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.